was only yesterday that a group of school children, similar to this one at Eugene Field Elementary School, sat down to eat lunch at Star Elementary. The memories of what happened during that lunch has Oklahoma City reeling in shock, and it's making school officials more sensitive about safety. It's the school board's job to see to it that the city's schools are safe, and the students' well-being can't be dependent on their ability to react. Teachers' union officials charge that the school board has been negligent in their responsibility.
In regard to safety, all I can say is that when you're dealing with 50, 60-year-old buildings, you've got an underfunded budget. When you have a maintenance staff that is also not only underfunded but understaffed, you're going to have conditions that create a safety problem.
But schools are safe.
And we have spent a great deal of money in this system on changing controls and improving controls on all of our boilers. And I think we've just about completed that, so that there probably isn't any boiler with an out-of-date or unsafe control.
The heat systems at most schools are old and under dangerous circumstances could be explosive. School officials assure that they have worked to prevent such circumstances as far as equipment will allow. New controls regulate abnormal pressure, like what is believed to have caused the Star explosion. Systems have been repaired where repair is feasible, but some systems are past the point where repair or new valves are the solution. The school board wants to replace those systems before they become dangerous. A bond, if passed in March, will allow the board to make the corrections it sees necessary. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Midwest City Police Sergeant Paul school just minutes after the explosion. He carried hurting school children to ambulances for nearly an hour. His efforts undoubtedly reduced the suffering of many, but a searing pain in his chest forced Sergeant Long to stop. He was admitted to Midwest City Hospital suffering from a possible heart attack. Doctors now say he probably collapsed from exhaustion. Witnesses at the scene said Long's reaction to the crisis was exceptional. However, he doesn't see things that way.
I don't know, I was just one of many people that was on the team. You know, it was a joint effort, and it wasn't something on one person's part. Everybody done what they had to do. You know, it's like I said earlier, the only thing that I did that some of the others didn't do is I give up on them.
Long's bosses at the Midwest City Police Department don't believe he gave up. In fact, they say the sergeant could be in line for a commendation. His wife says she doesn't care if he gets a medal for his actions. She already considered him a hero before yesterday. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at Midwest City Hospital.
Heartbeeps is not a movie for adults, but the children should enjoy it. The film is about two robots who fall in love. The robots are played by Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters. The makeup for Heartbeeps is the best thing in the whole movie. Peters and Kaufman are put in their shelf after their performance on the job is questionable. On the shelf they meet and eventually fall in love. They then decide one night to venture out into the woods.
We could damage ourselves if we travel in darkness.
The hollow part of the hillside would be a good place for shelter.
Question: what are the probabilities of encountering hostile life?
I have insufficient data. Whoa!
Oh dear.
For a proper computation.
Do you see an alternative shelter?
Negative. Logically, the wildlife could coexist with our units in the cave. Perhaps there's a way to make the animal mentally aware that we are not a threat.
Wait! You could be basing your decision to act on invalid assumptions!
We need shelter for the night, and I think that I am best equipped to attempt to provide it.
in love for robots, we learn, is called interfacing. At one point, Kaufman and Peters decide to have a baby robot. They do so by using old parts found in a junkyard. The funniest one in the movie is a robot sidekick called Catskill. He spits out Henny Youngman jokes like he has a short circuit somewhere. A law enforcement robot is chasing after Peters and Kaufman. That provides little action, but not much. The thing to remember is Heartbeeps is not for the older crowd. They will find it slow and probably not very funny, not even cute. But I do believe the children will enjoy it. I'm Dean O'Lally.
Nine-year-old Troy Kelly didn't expect to go to his mother's wedding in a wheelchair. Tuesday morning, he was a lively, spry little boy. But that afternoon, he became one of the victims in the devastating explosion at his school. Conscious in the emergency room, his first thoughts were of his mother, who was to be married tonight. Troy turned to her and said, "Well, Mom, I guess I can't make your wedding." Janet Kelly made a vow to herself that he would be there, and that he was. In fact, he was the proud ring bearer tonight as the wedding of Janet Kelly and Lloyd Bailey got underway at Presbyterian Hospital. Thanks to the cooperation of the hospital, the wedding was carried out beautifully. Everyone was invited, including the other children at Presbyterian who were injured Tuesday. This indeed was a special night. Janet feels happy she can begin her new life with Lloyd, but most of all, she feels lucky Troy can share it with them. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
Would like to assure the people of the Oklahoma City School Board and Teachers Union do not always agree, but today there is total unity. School Board President Floyd Donworth and AFT Union President Dave Renfro have announced all Oklahoma City public schools will be closed Monday. The day will be set aside to remember 5 young students and 1 teacher who lost their lives in Tuesday's noon-hour explosion at Star School in Spencer. The impact of the tragedy has been sustained by 1 school, but Renfro says all 40,000 students, 5,000 district employees, along with parents, have been shaken by the incident. Maintenance crews will take advantage of Monday's school closing to further inspect safety conditions in city schools. The state fire marshal confirmed earlier this week a Republic brand water heater was the source of the fatal explosion. Donworth says the inspection of Republic heaters in other schools is now complete. We have checked all of the Republic heaters, and all of those remaining in the system are operative and in safe condition. Technically, I am probably able to talk about them. I know the Republic, the Ream, all of the different types of water heaters, and Republic is a good heater. Renfro was asked if he's in favor of reopening Star School.
The union feels that at this point in time it'd be too traumatic to ask the students or the teachers to go back into Star. Other accommodations can be made, and we're asking that those accommodations be made.
Renfro says moving the children to Rogers Elementary School may be the best option, since Rogers is only 2 miles away from Star. Both men agree the children should not be separated. They believe the people of Star School should remain together, even though the building has been torn apart. Larry Otis, Action 4.
For the past 2.5 years, Oklahoma's prison inmates have been kept in single cells. State corrections officials have been under a federal court order to maintain a one-man, one-cell system. But the prisons began filling up at an alarming rate. In early December, corrections officials quietly doubled up about 100 inmates statewide. Then they went to court to ask federal Judge Luther Bohannon to allow the temporary double celling of some 310 inmates. The judge granted the request for 1 year, but he also imposed a $1,000 a day fine for each day the double celling occurred. He later dropped that fine. Prison officials housed several hundred inmates in dormitory-like buildings, while the state attorney general appealed Judge Bohannon's decision. Late last week, an appeals court threw out the part of Bohannon's ruling which said double celling was unconstitutional. Tomorrow, state officials will transfer 160 prisoners from their dormitories to double cells at the Joseph Harp and Lexington correctional centers. They also have the authority to double up 150 prisoners at the Connor and Mabel Bassett Correctional Centers. Corrections officials realize that double celling alone is not the answer to prison overpopulation. If present trends continue, they predict the space recently created by double celling will be filled within a few months. Scott Wallace, Action 4. Department of Corrections officials decided it would be too unsettling to allow photographs at Lexington and Joseph Harp on the first day of double celling. However, they did allow us to take pictures inside the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center, which is patterned after the other two facilities. The 78-square-foot rooms can accommodate an extra inmate with the addition of another bed. The appearance is similar to a small college dorm room. The inmates transferred to the new quarters today will not be housed two to a cell. Instead, volunteers from the old prison population will be the only ones doubled up. That should reduce some of the dangers of double celling.
It'll be a strain to watch more people. It will also be a strain on the budget at the institution because we're going to have more food, we've got to have more towels, we're going to have more bed linens, this whole thing. So procedurally, just setting up the mechanics of having more people is one of the hardest things to do. I think that security-wise we'll be able to take care of it. And like I said, since the inmates are doing this voluntarily, I think this will be a big part of the problem alleviated because we have people rooming together that want to instead of just moving strangers in with people who've been there all the time.
Joseph Harp and Lexington will receive another 80 inmates destined for double cells later this week. In addition, authorities have permission to double up about 50 inmates at Mabel Bassett. No one can say how long the double celling will be needed. The federal court's permission to house 2 inmates per cell will expire December 22nd. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center.
Oklahoma City Police say officers are placed in people situations every day. By this they mean when dealing with so many different types of people, each situation must be handled in a specific way. And as citizens watch police perform their duties, one person can perceive what is happening entirely different than another. Thus is a recent case brought before the City Council, where a woman felt an officer should have been reprimanded for his actions on the job. But she was afraid because she thought the Fraternal Order of Police would sue her if she could not prove her charges. And she claimed that such a fund was set up by the FOP to countersue citizens. Today at the City Council meeting, the FOP president denied such a fund existed.
The FOP has no fund that exists for filing suits against the citizens we are sworn to protect and serve. The mere statement that the police keep such a fund is alarming to the citizenry, and we deplore such irresponsible untruths. I and the entire membership of the Fraternal Order of Police recognize that we as men and women are extremely human and that we sometimes make mistakes.
McBride points out there are documented cases where officers have been wrong in their actions. Still, there's an unwritten law. Police must try and support other police when at all possible. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
Signs like this in restaurants are there for one reason, to stop hepatitis A from being passed along. Washing hands at the proper times will prevent the disease from spreading, but evidently people haven't been doing enough of it lately because hepatitis cases are up. And the health department has traced the sources back to restaurants, nursing homes, daycare centers, and hospitals. County health officials admit they haven't had the manpower or money to effectively keep a lid on the problem with periodic checks of suspect businesses. But they say that will soon change.
We did not have the personnel. We just had 8 full-time sanitarians doing 4,500 food service establishments. while we'll have in July, we'll have 10 more field people added to our staff, and that's going to increase the amount of frequency of inspections.
Okay, wait, Justin, wait. Shayla's going to help you on these. Shayla, you go around.
The increase in manpower was made possible by the past millage levy, and that in turn will make more frequent inspections of high-risk businesses such as daycare centers possible. Health Director White says more inspections should mean fewer hepatitis cases in Oklahoma County. Ted Brown, Action 4.
While most of Del City slept this morning, a trio of Del City policemen responded to a 2 o'clock burglar alarm at Gibson's Discount Store on Southeast 29th. Inside, they found a man who had stuffed one bag full of pharmacy drugs, another bag with electronic and sporting goods. Del City police have the booty on display. 50,000 pills with a street value of $75,000 to $85,000. 22-year-old Wesley Horton is in the Oklahoma County Jail charged with second-degree burglary. What was his intent in taking the drugs? Are you familiar with his background?
I'd rather not comment on that. This large quantity, I'm sure it's not to support a habit. It would be to distribute on the street. Once they hit the street, basically the only way to make an arrest or to confiscate it is through undercover officers making them buy.
And would have to be considered very fortunate that at this time you did catch this man.
What had happened, he had shorted all the alarm systems except one, and evidently he did not know it was there.
Horton also faces 4 outstanding felony warrants for receiving stolen property. Del City police say the department store break-in is the 3rd in the city this week. In all 3 cases, the suspects arrested on the scene. Larry Otis, Action 4, Del City Police Department.
Almost 1,000 people filled the church to pay their last respects to Senator Jeff Johnston. Johnston's life ended tragically last Monday from injuries he received when his car was struck broadside on Highway 9. State leaders were on hand to bid their 31-year-old colleague goodbye for the last time.
I will not desert to his foes that soothe the...
Johnston is survived by his wife Janet and their 2 children, as well as his parents.
I really feel much better than I did a week ago because we've not only had our own people, had well-respected state agencies with tracking and spot checking that will.
Village police and emergency units arrived at this house to find Lon Swearingen lying inside the front door, shot in the right side. He was taken to Baptist Hospital, where he underwent surgery after being listed in stable condition. It's not known how or who shot the man. Police say it was a domestic shooting and there was an argument, but it's not clear how the gun became involved or how the shot was fired. The police have talked to the man's wife, Mrs. Swearingen. Their investigation is now pending until they can talk to her husband. Once AMCARE removed Mr. Swearingen from the house, the couple's children were removed. Police first brought out a little girl. She was handed to a neighbor who took the child into her home. Minutes later, a small boy was brought out. He also was taken to the neighbor's home. Police say both children were asleep at the time of the shooting. Sherry Sellers, Action 4. Oklahomans concerned about the high cost of energy can find a bonanza of information at the 4th Annual Oklahoma City Energy Expo. Most of the items here are new innovative ideas. Others are not so new, like this cast iron wood-burning stove used to heat the home. To heat your water, this solar hot water heater is the latest in conservation. It not only saves you water, but also money, because 2/3 of the cost can be applied to your state and federal income taxes. Another source of water loss can be found in the bathroom. A family of 4 can save over $300 a year by changing their shower head or modernizing their toilet.
The water you save from your new bathroom facilities can now be used to water your plants or fill your jacuzzi in your new greenhouse. Yet another way of conserving energy.
Wind power is something Oklahoma has plenty of. It too can be used to cut utility cost. These windmills come in all sizes and shapes, but they have one thing in common. Thanks to them, high energy costs can be literally gone with the wind. Most of these systems are assembled from kits like this airplane. For the low price of $10,000, you can pilot your own fuel-efficient Quickie aircraft. It's the ultimate adult toy.
This may look like a toy, but it's actually a real car. This 2-seater for 2 very small people gets up to 85 miles per gallon and can go up to 65 miles per hour. It's just one of the many things to be seen here at the 1982 Energy Exposition. For Action 4, this is Sherry Sellers reporting.
Action 4 has learned Guatemalan authorities has successfully prosecuted 3 men accused of murdering Father Stanley Rother. Rother was shot to death last July 28th. Each of the 3 will serve an 8-year prison sentence and pay a $2,000 fine. Authorities claim the 3 native Indians broke into Rother's parish rectory in Santiago Atitlan as part of a robbery attempt. However, in an exclusive interview, the lone witness told us the murder had nothing to do with a robbery. Francisco Bosell said the intruders tried to kidnap Rother. He resisted, so they shot him.
How big were the 3 men who came into the rectory that night? Were they bigger than the average Indian that may live in the village?
¿Qué tamaño era la gente que entró esa noche en la casa? Era más grande que el promedio de los indios de Santiago.
Sí, es grande, como la estatura del Padre Francisco.
Yes, they were big. They were about the same size as Father Francis.
Who was much bigger than people who live in the village?
Sí, y de que era mucho más grande el Padre Francisco que la gente que vivía en el
Sí, era grande. Sí, era grande.
Yes, he was big.
The witness said the killers were tall Spaniards. The men convicted of the murder are short Indians, about the size of these villagers, a completely different class of people in Guatemala. As reported in our series Death of a Priest, the men accused and now convicted of killing Roether probably didn't do it. The man from Okarche, Oklahoma, was the victim of a political assassination, shot to death in all probability by a death squad dispatched by the right-wing Guatemalan government. I'm Larry Otis, Action 4.
Well, we're very pleased with the decision by the Supreme Court, and in effect, I think it affirms the office's position that the Constitution and the laws of the state of Oklahoma relating to liquor sales and liquor products are meant for the use and benefit and the regulation of that industry in the state of Oklahoma. And I think the court, in effect, has so said, and we believe they're correct.
In essence,
At the Tax Commission, records are kept on forgotten accounts. The businesses wait 14 years before turning over the information. It's then up to the Tax Commission to advertise the money in newspapers across the state. Ads will start appearing February 15th and run through the 22nd. If the money is still unclaimed, it will be put into a separate account, and there it will remain abandoned. One might think it odd that someone could forget about money, but it happens all the time.
You may have a relative, for example, who opened an account, say in a bank or a savings and loan, or had some stocks, and never told you. Another reason is your parents, when you were a little girl, may have opened a savings account for your college education, maybe due to moves throughout their career or financial hardships. They were maybe never able to, on a monthly basis, to feed your account, to speak, and these accounts are forgotten about.
These files at the Oklahoma Tax Commission are full of unclaimed property. Now keep in mind, any money you recover would be subject to state tax. But then again, some money is always better than no money. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the Oklahoma Tax Commission.